Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. So, good evening, everyone online, and good evening, everyone here, or good morning in Canada. Okay, so this is our second last evening, I think, which is a concept, perception. And the experience of the second last evening is like this. So concepts are not experiences. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to take the language of practice, both from our Kuba Johns and from the texts and friends, and see how they fit our reality, the reality of our experience. So we go beyond opinion. And it's always sad to see people who are cleverly opinionated Buddhists, but who suffer. You see them there, I wouldn't say that's true of anyone here because we're quite reflective and intelligent. But sometimes you see people, they have book knowledge, but they don't have wisdom. So you see, they're not, they're not really intelligent in that way, and yet the kind of they think they know, and that's a trap. That's a real trap of thinking that opinions and views about Dhamma are the reality of liberation. But what I find here, I don't find that here at all. I find people, the questions are really interesting, and people are very reflective and intelligent. And that's what intelligence should be used for liberation. So I'm really happy to be involved in these interviews. Thank you for inviting me. I learned a lot. So the question that has come up, and which came up, please explain more on rest in awareness or rest as awareness. Is it an attitude, a way of looking at things, finding it relaxing and enjoyable, an approach? So we talked about this in one of the group interviews. So let's think about soup first. Soup. Now, what I've noticed that the soups in Thailand are very light. Like the soup we had today was very nice and light. And it was chicken and ginger and lemongrass, water, cabbage, some spices, correct? So what do you call that? Is there a name for that soup that we had today? It wasn't borscht, I know that. Oh no. Okay, it was that soup. So my mom made very thick soups because we lived in a very cold climate. She was from Eastern Europe, so we had borscht and potato soup and almost like stews. So you can you can say borscht, right? That's a concept, but actually the whole creation of the soup is rather complex. First of all, you need experience in making soup. Simple enough. And then you have to know what kind of vegetables to put in, how to cut them up, and how long to boil them, and to boil one first and then add the other one, and what kind of spices to put in, and whether you put sour cream in the end or not. So that's borscht. So resting in awareness is a is a simple resting in awareness. It's 3 words, very simple, but actually what it implies is, I think, a fair bit of practice and sometimes with language, I was saying when I was talking about someone asking about metta, how can you have metta for someone who is cruel? And I was indicating that metta is not binary. It's not on off, that it's a spectrum of attitudes from the most simple to not dwelling in aversion to the most sublime kind of love, you could say. So although the word is one thing, metta, it actually implies quite a lot. And what to me resting in awareness implies is, I would say, a fair maturity in the practice and probably a lot of work in the areas of like purifying the mind. So if I think back to my own career, my own career in meditation, if you would have said that to me the first year, I can't remember if I would have understood it, but what was more helpful was oton, endure, be patient, because the emotions that I was experiencing were quite coarse, and they were taking place in a mind which was not trained, and in a lifestyle which wasn't immoral but was pretty indulgent. So all of that created the causes and conditions for a practice which didn't require much subtlety. It required a good lifestyle, first of all, kalyanamitta, to say, hang in there, stay with it, you'll survive. And then a few years of purification. And so if you would have said to me then, rest in awareness, probably would have gone in one ear and out the other. But there were results from that doing, and the results were partially not overdoing, say, finding a balance of witnessing and enduring and staying with walking, sitting, walking, overdoing it, then giving up, then sleeping for 14 hours and feeling guilty, the whole challenge of a young guy trying to learn how to meditate. So the context of rest and awareness now is all of that other stuff that took place. And all that other stuff took place as part of the intuitive wisdom that I now have in my own practice when I say rest in awareness, or when Luangpor says that to me. And then just like understanding, say, how to tune the mind, maybe, if I use Ajahn Sucitto's phraseology, to kind of tune the mind into what metta is. A mind of kindness and acceptance and humility it's a kind of tuning in. It's not just a technique. Okay, now I'm going to do metta bhavana, and then I'm going to have a cup of coffee, and then I think I'll do rest and awareness. I can't chop it up like that myself. So understanding what metta is as a tone of mind, as an attitude, as a color of mind, whatever you as a tuning in, is something that took a long time too. So I could maybe do the formal practices of metta bhavana with all those lists, but as I've been saying during this retreat, it always felt to me a much deeper kind of possibility in the general tone of my mind. So the context of me saying rest and awareness is that as well. How do I bring an attitude of loving kindness or acceptance or welcoming into the present moment? And then body awareness, that in the beginning, body awareness was probably just a lot of lust. Young guy, or probably body awareness was being angry at another monk or something like that. So it was usually quite coarse, but I was also doing a lot of yoga. So through all of that, my own struggles, and then finding body awareness as objects in awareness, and then over the years, seeing that emotions are related to the body, and seeing how anger has a locus in the body, fear has a locus in the body, how metta and mudita affect the heart, etc., etc., etc. The context of resting in awareness is all of that as well. So body awareness, and then let's say the purification of the mind from the coarse fears and angers that I felt, which have now dissipated. Resting in awareness is quite possible because all of that work was done. So I could go on and on and on. So it's not, I wouldn't see it as a technique, but it's certainly a beautiful suggestion. And so for me, when Luangpor says it's like this, that's an indication to rest in awareness. Finished. Bus. But if I'm never really contemplating that, I might be, it's like this. What do you mean it's like this? Well, it's like this. And I could start thinking that I have to find something called it's like this. And I've seen people do that. Well, they think this is an experience special. This is a really special experience you're going to get if you just find out what it's like this is. And it's just like this. And so for me, anytime I use language in this way, it's like this. I always try to notice the end of the word or end of the phrase, and then that silence, and then there's the background, and rest in that. So it seems quite simple, but I've been at it for a long time. So to come to those experiential conclusions rather than just opinions has taken a lot of work, a lot of work. So then within that, if I want, I can do that. Or if I'm doing drowsy, and then I will do something else. So it's not that I have one method all the time. I'm using all the intuitive skills that have been developed over the years, and just intuitively knowing from experience what to do. So I'm sure my mom, after a while, didn't have to think about the borscht. She just knew how many potatoes, which takes longer to boil, the potato or the meat, and how much salt. So she just knew how to make really good borscht. Um, so I think in the same way, we're all kind of cooking up the freedom from suffering. And you really just have to trust your own exploration, I think. If it's experiential, if it's just intellectual, then you'll be caught in opinions. So let's say you hear like rest in awareness. So then you just, what does that mean, resting? You take a word like rest. Like, what does it mean to rest? And you're intelligent, and you've heard the word before, but what's the experience of resting? What is that? And somehow you get a sense of it, don't you? It's like I used to play basketball. So the basketball coach would say, if you're shooting the ball and you have to follow through with your arm and keep it up there so you get a good shot. So the coach is telling you to do that. And that's what the teaching and your own experience is telling you rest in awareness. And then rather than try to figure it out intellectually, just try it. Like what does resting feel like? And if you think, well, is this resting? You know what the word means. So why not just sort of experiment, rest? What we mean to rest? And then you find, well, actually, I'm really restless. Always doing something. I always need to meditate. I always need to meditate. And then, I've got to meditate and maybe resting. So you challenge yourself in that way. Uh, but and so if we have the um, trust in our own intelligence, then when you hear a suggestion from a teacher or from a book, how does that first of all fit into your own experience? Is it something new? And what is it in your own experience that's already good? There's a lot, isn't it? For all of us, there's a lot of stuff that we know. First of all, we know our own personalities, we know our own bodies, we know the habits of mind that we get caught up into, and then maybe there's a nuance that comes in which you haven't thought about before. So you go back and you look at your own meditation, and you look at, well, trying and resting. What is trying? What is resting? And then that idea of in awareness or as awareness. I'm going to rest in awareness. So if you haven't gotten a sense of foreground background, then that's a bit difficult, because then your only thing is objects. So then you think, I'll rest in an object. Yeah, go to your sauna and have a rest. Okay, that's okay. But resting in awareness requires a kind of, I think, understanding of that foreground background model. Um, so if you don't understand, you have to go back to that. So background, what does it mean? So you just stop and observe. So you notice what I'm trying to do in this retreat and the rest of my life is just bring you to reality, just the reality of this moment, what you're experiencing and then inquire with these different words where non-attachment is, say, where non-grasping is. What is non-grasping? And different teachers talk about it in different ways, but it's really, I think, part of the same thing. Non-attachment, resting in awareness. At like now, if you ask Luangpor Sumedho, I don't know, I'm going to get a 45-minute one out of this one. Anyway, if you because while I'm talking, my mind is saying, "What else can you say about this?" Anyway, I'll give it a go. So, like now, Luangpor Sumedho, if you ask him, and now I often ask him about the Noble Eightfold Path, just to see what he answers. And you probably heard me say this, but I think in Italy, I was asking him, so right effort, what is it for you now? No effort. You know, he's been at it for 60 years, and the texts don't say no effort, they say right effort. So if you're some kind of um, dyed in the wool Pali Buddhist, you say wrong view. Can't be no effort, it's right effort. But then you think, well, the man's been at it 60 years. What is he pointing to? What's he actually pointing to? So you don't take a dogmatic position. You say, no effort. Oh, no effort. Oh, okay. Resting in awareness. Oh, yeah. Okay, I get that. Yeah, okay, I like that. So then I asked him, Sama Samadhi, what are you doing with that one? He comes back. If I remember correctly, maybe I'm wrong, but what I remember, he said, no effort. Same answer. So, oh yeah, I get that too. So language, experience, um, and just the idea that as we progress on this path, we do become more and more refined. And then I think one of the obvious things about refinement is the sense of a doer becomes less and less. I mean, I could say that's a constant um, part of everyone's process in this. I would think, and so you think about it, all the techniques that I don't know. I've tried 1 million and 2 million techniques. I'd see a new technique. Oh, that's the one, and then it would be very novel, be very new, and anything new keeps your attention for at least a day. So then I would take up this new technique. Yeah, this is really great. And then after a few days, the same old rubbish in my mind would overtake me. And then, oh, here's another one. And here's another one. So that part of the practice was simply thinking that a technique will overcome the habits of mind. Um, and then through failure, I found, because even I could use a technique. So like, let's say when I first did a Goenka retreat, and I could see I could build up a really beautiful state of mind. And then I realized, well, yeah, but then you have to build it up all the time. So I got disillusioned with that pretty quick because it was just a construct, and then the construct, I thought, well, that doesn't seem like the unconditioned to me. It was nice, like borscht is nice. It was a nice experience, but that was still a constructed experience. It required all these different factors to be built up into this beautiful thing. And then 3 days later, I'd be angry at a monk. So I intuitively, I just saw, well, I don't want to be building things all the time, because that to me was always the definition of sankhara. A sankhara is a constructed thing. It depends on causes and conditions, and it in turn is the cause and condition for future things. So a light bulb is a sankhara, and the light in this room is a sankhara, and the electricity that feeds the light bulb is a sankhara, and my visual perception is a sankhara. So that's all constructed. Asankata is it's not constructed. So that I've always, obviously, that's why I've always been interested in that bit. And I think part of that is that, like, we come to this work, partially, some people come to it from an existential shock. Someone dies, or there's a sickness or something, and it brings them to Dhamma. There is that. Some of us come to it from profound spiritual experiences. So I came to it from that, not very often, often enough that, no, this is what I must pursue this lifetime. Huh? And then it always, the kind of teachings on unconditioned and awareness always fit my own experience. So that's what I was interested. So when I did a lot of samatha practice and built things up, they go again. So I just intuitively lost faith in that. I could get intimidated by people talking about that, but I basically lost faith in that. So my faith was more and more on any teacher that was speaking about awareness, because I felt that was it. So with Luangpor Sumedho's instruction, and then knowing that Luangpor Sumedho has done a lot of work with nimittas, has done a lot of work with anapanasati. He's quite a skilled meditator. And now at the end of his teaching career, hopefully not for another 20 years, he says it's like this. And no effort. And that, so what's he pointing to? What, for me, and I know him very well, and I, there's a huge faith in him. So when he says something like that, no effort, then I contemplate, okay, what's no effort? Being, stillness, those kinds of things. But I can do that now. I couldn't do that 50 years ago. So it kind of depends on where you're at. If you're experiencing a lot of turmoil because of whatever, some family situation or whatever, then what might be appropriate is just oton, be patient. So if you have a sudden sickness which has surprised you, and the mind has now gone into fear and kind of deep worry, then you might say rest in awareness. Someone might say that to you, and you might say, drop dead, leave me alone. I'm rest in awareness. I'm going to die soon. I can't. So it might be better to say, wow, that's really difficult. That's a difficult thing to endure. And yeah, that'd be really, really, and that's what you're saying to yourself, maybe. And so what's the appropriateness of attitudes to the present moment? So rest and awareness might work in the evening, but it might not work in the morning. Rest and awareness in the morning might mean you hit the concrete because you fell asleep. It might not be suitable, or it might, right? So it's never one thing, but it is an accumulation of skills, insights, and attitudes which inform every moment of your meditation practice. And that can't be really quantified, but it is there, right? All the stuff that didn't work, you don't tend, you hear about it, you say, nah, been there, done that. And all the stuff that does work, you kind of trust that language, even though, again, you might not be able to quantify it. Rest and awareness to me seems, it's a particularly beautiful way of, of, of describing a trusting heart which doesn't really need to get anything. So if I'm still invested in getting something, achieving something in my meditation practice, then I'm probably still intimidated by the language of achievement. When I hear about enlightenment in various formats or samadhi in various formats, I'm probably still intimidated by that. And I don't know about you, I could get really intimidated by talk of attainments and people, kind of, like someone would talk about attainments, and then I'd be like 20 vasa, like, oh, don't ask me. Please don't ask me. Please don't embarrass me. What's your attainment, Viradhammo? Well, can we talk about furniture? So you can look at that. You can look at that, someone talks about attainment and you get intimidated, and then you try to get it yourself. This doesn't work because it's still bhava. But much better to say, oh, this is a feeling of feeling inadequate. Now, if you allow yourself to feel inadequate, then you don't have to become adequate. This is a feeling of being totally hopeless in meditation. It's like this. You're free. You're free of that whole program of becoming something. Huh? If you have it to teach, it's quite hard, to feel like I'd have that sometimes. I'm teaching a retreat. My mind's a complete mess, right? There's some horrible situation is going on in the monastery. Monks are arguing, or we haven't got enough money or something like that. And my mind's, and then it's like this. Oh, that was helpful. Rather than, oh gosh, I'm a teacher now. Got to get some samadhi together here. But then, no, I feel totally frazzled, or I feel a mess. You got a lovely. Did I tell the story about Jivako and the Indian retreat? I told that to you guys. If I've told this before, just throw a tomato at me or something. So Venerable Jivako, I don't think he'll mind me sharing this. Yeah, I think he's good. He just taught a retreat in Bing and Blin, a retreat center near Rishikesh in India, and he hasn't done many retreats. So the first talk, he has a panic attack. Have you ever had a panic attack? Not good. Not conducive to elocution. It's just the most horrible kind of feeling. And he was so cool. He's up there now, like panic attack. He just closed his eyes and said, panic attack feels like this. And everyone's waiting, here's the Ajahn. This guy's going to teach a retreat for 10 days. He's sitting up higher. I'm down here. Let's have the goods kind of expectation. And he just stayed with the silence. And everyone was, okay, we're meditating. Okay. And then finally it subsided, and then he talked through it. And people were so impressed, partially because he was so super honest and he was so sincere. And the Dhamma that comes out of surviving that is very powerful, very powerful. So it's a great retreat. Um, and so this practice that we have, it's like this, um, is the most honest practice, right? And it's the most realistic practice. It's real. It's about real life. And then it does lead to, first of all, purification, where these things fall away. So now I don't have any panic attacks. My last panic attack was maybe long ago, 587, maybe 1988. So it's a long, long time ago. But they were really scary. And our this is the way we practice is when this material comes up, we say it's like this. We trust that the kamma, the vipaka kamma, the anusaya are actually being released from consciousness. And it's true. They're coming up, stimulated by whatever, and our trust and awareness allows them to be released. If we take them personally, they never get released. So like let's say if I hadn't done that and I had just kind of covered it over, it come up again, and then I have to face it again. So there's that purification part. Then there's the cultivation of all these different skills: body awareness, metta, uh, insight, wisdom, understanding, and then these kind of culmination and conclusions. It's no effort, rest and awareness. They make a lot of sense. Okay, I think I'll leave that for your reflection.